Well, good morning, everyone. Good morning. This morning, I am speaking on our place in the web of life, our place in the web of life in honor of Earth Day. Um, if you immerse yourself in the Native American teachings, you'll find this overriding characteristic, and that is gratitude. You'll find this overriding feeling of overwhelming love and thankfulness for the gifts of the Creator and the gifts of the earth and the gifts of the universe. Native American spirituality. Hang on 1 second. Sorry, everything disappeared. Okay. That wasn't supposed to happen. It all disappeared. Sorry about that. Native American spirituality is inextricably woven with connection to the earth. The elder Joshua Wetsit, he was born in 1886, and he said, "Our religion is all one religion, the Great Spirit. We're thankful that we're on this Mother Earth. And that's the first thing when we wake up in the morning, is to be thankful to the Great Spirit for Mother Earth, how we live, what it produces, and what keeps everything alive. You know, just think about what's supported your being alive already today. You got up this morning, you probably had water in some form. Maybe it was in coffee, mixed with coffee beans from a coffee plant. Maybe it was tea, the tea leaves. Perhaps you had, orange juice from orange trees. We're all sitting in buildings made of wood. I know this building I'm in is all wood, the wood of trees. And, I know this afternoon I'm going to have a nice organic salad with lots of veggies after service. If we thanked Mother Earth each time we receive life-supporting sustenance, we'd be saying thank you all day long. And the Native American traditions do just that. Woven into their spirituality is an awareness that we cannot live a moment without the endless gifts that we constantly receive from our earth. So this whole town of Ashland has been celebrating Earth Day all weekend. And I was thinking that I really celebrate Earth Day every day. I have to take my walks, my walking meditation, rain or shine. And I really feel the way Mary Oliver feels in her poem when she says, "For me, the door to the woods is the door to the temple. The door to the woods is the door to the temple." And I feel the same way. She has another short poem that goes, "Instructions for living a life. Pay attention, be astonished, and tell about it. Pay attention, be astonished, and tell about it." If we pay attention, there is plenty to be astonished about, plenty to overflow our gratitude. And when we tell about it, when we share it, when we celebrate it, it spreads the happiness. So I have been feeling astonished at the beauty of this spring as everything's coming alive. I know you all in Tahoe have been watching a lot of snow melt, but even a few weeks ago when I was there, I saw some willows, those fuzzy little willows, that first sign of spring. I saw them blooming. So I'm sure you have more signs of spring by now. Myrtle Fillmore wrote that nature is the glorified face of God. Nature is the glorified face of God. See the beauty about you and see the manifestation of the infinite mind. The infinite mind is, you could say, synonymous with Great Spirit, with what the Native Americans call Great Spirit. It's synonymous with the ultimate creative artist. I just try to imagine the mind, the divine mind, the infinite mind that comes up with these infinite varieties of flowers, the colors and the shapes and the scents, the genius mind that created waterfalls, the way water flows over rocks and creates just this magnificent beauty. You know, the birds, the creation of so many birds, the wild geese and the rufous-sided towhees that are back here now, and the robins. There's like hundreds of robins in my yard every day. Um, and the herons and the tanagers. I even heard a tanager the other day. So this genius creator dazzles us, really, dazzles us with beauty. If we do what Mary Oliver said and we pay attention, we give that our attention. Well, there are so many things like calling for our attention, but why not give the masterpiece that spring is our attention, right? If we do, we can live in wonder. We can live in a state of wonder. You know, the poets are so inspired by nature. John Donahue wrote, everything that is, every tree, bird, star, stone, and wave existed first as a dream in the mind of the divine artist. The beauty of God becomes evident in the beauty of the world. And so spring is a recurring masterpiece, you know, and it inspires endless art and endless contemplation and poetry and music. The song I wrote at the beginning of service inspired it. Even the clothes we wear, you know, everybody's wearing pink and purple, you know, pink to match the cherry blossoms, purple to match the wisterias. Oh, we need beauty. You know, we really need beauty, and especially the beauty of nature for our well being. It's so healing, it's so restorative. You know, if we got everyone out of the classrooms and all the office buildings more often, we got everyone off the iPhones and away from the TVs, away from Netflix and Amazon Prime, and we had them all hike to a lake, a mountain lake, or hike out to a beautiful park and spend the day, and we did that regularly, we would have such a healthier society. I really believe that alone, more time in nature, would go a long way in healing the present ills that we face as a society. You might have heard the story of how John Muir got Teddy Roosevelt to meet him in Yosemite. It was back in 1903. And John Muir, you know, he was motivated to get President Roosevelt camping because he wanted Yosemite to become a national park, as well as some other areas he wanted to preserve and protect. So Roosevelt said yes, and the two men went camping for 3 memorable nights. And the first night they camped under the Mariposa Grove of giant sequoias in Yosemite. And President Roosevelt wanted to camp in the grove. He wanted to camp under those ancient, you know, old growth trees instead of staying in the hotel. And he said later that the grove was a temple greater than any human architect could by any possibility build. So they camped in the grove the first night, and it said that Roosevelt slept on a pile of 40 wool blankets. Like, it's hard to imagine 40 wool blankets. I mean, that they didn't have thermarests, I don't think, back then, you know, those blow up thermarests. The next day on the camping trip, it got really interesting because they were camping near Sentinel Dome and a snowstorm came in. And of course, you know, they didn't have the weather apps back then. So they were camped on top of 5 feet of snow, and then the snowstorm came bearing down. And Roosevelt told reporters later, "We were in a snowstorm last night on Glacier Point, and it's just what I wanted." You can feel when you read the story how invigorated Roosevelt was. You know, he seemed delighted to be back in nature and away from the White House and all the politics. And the experience that him and John Muir had together, sharing, you know, such joy in the beauty and the magnificence of Yosemite and having great conversations, that led Roosevelt to expand protection of Yosemite. And he signed into existence 5 national parks, 18 national monuments, 55 national bird sanctuaries and wildlife refuges, and 150 national forests. Wow. For that, I am eternally grateful. I know you are too. But it's just so impressive, and it's the power of nature. You know, John Muir knew, get Roosevelt in Yosemite, you know, just let him just a few days, and it was just so transformative that he did all these great things because he felt the beauty and the balance and the wonder awaken in him, and how much we need that, and how much we need to take care of it and protect it. Now, I find that we humans are at our best when we're remembering our connection with nature, when we're feeling our connection with nature. That's why I always do retreats and take people out into nature, get them out in nature. So we need to recognize and remember and feel our place in the web of life. You know, that our place is here, that we're at home here, and we're connected to everything in the web. You know, we're not separate, because it's the loss of feeling connected that causes so much chaos and unwellness in the world. Again, Mary Oliver, she understood this. She wrote so beautifully about it when she said, "Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination. It calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over, announcing your place in the family of things. Your place in the family of things." You know, Mary's work has been described as an instruction manual on how to love the world. And she always uses nature to point to the sacred. And she has a way of making us feel more comfortable about our humanness, about being human. I love that verse in another one of her poems. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. I love that. That reminds me of a teaching that I received once from the tiniest of creatures who had the softest animal body. I don't think I've told this story, but a few years back, I was walking down a trail. It was early summer at Lake Siskiyou in Mount Shasta. And I looked down, and there was this little beautiful baby chipmunk just lying in the middle of the trail. And it was a pretty hot day, and he was lying in the sun. And so I stopped, and I saw that he was alive. And after a moment, I gently just picked him up and moved him right out of the center of the trail so he wouldn't get stepped on, and so he could be in the shade. And he didn't move much, but he opened his eyes. His eyes were open. So I was wondering what to do, and I thought, well, I'm gonna go for a swim. I'm gonna sit by the lake for an hour or two, and when I come back, I'll see if he's still here, see if his mom came and picked him up. So a few hours later, I came back, and he was still lying there, and it was getting dark, and I had the feeling his mom wasn't coming. So I decided to pick him up and take him home. And at the car, I put a little bit of water in my hand, and he drank it. He drank out of my hand. So at home, I put him in a little box, and I did what you do these days. I Googled how you take care of a chipmunk, and it said to feed him puppy replacement formula. But all I had was almond milk. So I tried, but he didn't want the almond milk. So the next morning, I got the replacement formula and a little dropper, but I could not get him to drink out of the little dropper. But I discovered the way he would drink, and that was to put the formula in my hand, kind of right in that crease where my hand goes up into my fingers. If the milk was in there, he would stick his nose in there like he was nursing, and he drank a lot. He was hungry. And so by the end of that day, after I think I fed him 5 times, he was revived. And so this new thing started happening. Every time I put him down in his box, he would cry, this terrible, like heartbreaking cry, I mean, he just sounded so mournful, so I would pick him back up and he'd stop crying immediately, right? He was happy in my hand. So now I was his mom. We were bonded, and he was really high maintenance because he just wanted to be in my hand. And of course, I fell in love with him. He's so adorable. He had all his fur and his perfect little tail and his cute little feet. And so I just, he would run up and down my arm, and he was quite happy hanging on to me. But, back in the box, he would cry. So he basically trained me to carry him everywhere. I'd go outside and water the garden. He'd just be on my arm, right? I'd come back in, sit at my computer. He'd just be on my arm. And I named him Alvin, of course, little Alvin. So after about 2 weeks of this high maintenance bonding with my little Alvin, I had to go to a gig. I had to travel like 6 hours. And my partner, Chuck, he was not enamored of Alvin like I was. He was not going to carry him around all day and feed him out of his hand. So I called around and I found a man who rehabilitated squirrels and chipmunks and other wild animals. And Dave, he came over, and when he came, I told him, what I'd been doing for 2 weeks, that I keep him with me. He's always in my hand. And he was, marveled that I was willing to do that. But he told me that that was the only reason that he survived. And he said, when they're that small, they don't survive without being held. They have to have contact and the warmth of a loving being. And without that contact, that they die. So he took Alvin home, and he promised me he'd hold him, and he raised him for a few more months, and then he set him free. And so now Alvin lives in the woods of Mount Shasta. So every time I hike in Mount Shasta and see a chipmunk, I'm like, oh, you're a relative of Alvin, I'm sure. So the moral, though, of the story for me was that this tiniest of creatures taught me the importance of love and connection, and that without it, we cannot survive, we cannot thrive. He taught me about love, that we all need love, no matter, what form we embody on this planet. One of my favorite Native American prayers is from the Ute tradition. Just love this prayer. And it's a prayer that's basically asking the earth and its creatures and the elements to teach us. So I would like to share this prayer, but I'd like to share it phrase by phrase with commentary on what the teaching might be offering us. And of course, invite you to contemplate what it means for you. It begins, Earth, teach me stillness as the grasses are stilled with light. I believe that this is a great part of why I need to walk in nature every day, because when we walk in nature, all our concerns and inner conversations quiet down, especially if we're by ourselves. I like to walk by myself mostly, or with a quiet person. But in my experience walking, I just things just process, and then a silence comes into my being. Especially if I listen to the creek. It's the melted snow here. The creek is just flowing, and there's water, little waterfalls everywhere, and the sound is so beautiful. And the birds are all singing, and they sound so happy. And I love to listen to how they sing. They sound so carefree. And they teach me to be that way, and just to be present and be with the beauty. And then the next line from the prayer is, Earth, teach me suffering as old stones suffer with memory. That reminds me of this little tree that I've been passing in the park the last couple of weeks. This tree fell over in one of the storms, and so it's laying sideways on the ground, and yet it's blossoming leaves and flowers. It's just laying flat on the ground sideways, and there's this little tiny thread of lifeline to its its trunk and its roots, but it's still going to blossom. And to me, that's a teaching. That tree might have only weeks before it dies, but it's going to live every last minute it has blossoming. To me, it says, even if you're on the ground sideways, even if your days are numbered, live and love and express the life in you as fully as you can, and worry not, worry not. The next line in the prayer says, Earth, teach me humility as blossoms are humble with beginning. Teach me humility. In other words, be fresh and open, have a beginner's mind, always be learning. Learn to, watch the mind when it tells stories of arrogance and entitlement, and return to humility. The next line, Earth, teach me caring as the mother who secures her young. This makes me think of the videos, they're doing all those webcams with the eagle nests now. Hopefully the eagles don't mind. They don't seem to mind. But you get to see this pair of eagles just so dedicated to hatching those eggs and taking care of those eaglets. They protect them, they feed them, they do everything they can for them, and they take care of each other. Um, it's such a teaching and caring. What if we all cared for one another like that? Then the next line is, Earth, teach me courage as the tree which stands alone. Have you ever been on a hike? I know you guys in Tahoe have, where you go way up high and you see a tree and it's all, crooked and scraggly from all the branches being broken through so many winters, and maybe it's growing out of a crack in a rock, but it's determined, it's persevering. It's a teaching and courage that no matter the storms we weather, and we weather them, no matter our broken branches, we carry on with courage on the path of life. And the next line, Earth, teach me limitation as the ant which crawls on the ground. Earth, teach me limitation as the ant. When you think of the life of an ant, it has a lot to worry about with all these things that can step on it, right? It's limited in how fast it can move and how far it can move. And, we can learn to meet our own limitations with compassion. We can meet them as part of life, as part of Earth school. And then it says, Earth, teach me freedom as the eagle which soars in the sky. We learn to overcome limitations, transcend our limitations, and then feel the ecstasy of being more unlimited, more unbound, more expanded in consciousness. So we can embrace it all, the whole journey with reverence, every part of it, the limitations, the struggle, the overcoming limitations, embracing it all with reverence. Next, Earth, teach me resignation as the leaves which die in the fall. I love fall, and I love the way the leaves fall off the tree, and it's usually windy and they're swirling around in this dance, and then it seems like they just gently kiss the ground. It's such a teaching in graceful letting go, graceful letting go. So often our letting go, comes with a whole lot of resistance first, right? But that teaching in graceful letting go, that's skillfulness we can develop. The next line says, Earth, teach me regeneration as the seed that rises in spring. The seed that rises in spring reminds us of the cycles of death and rebirth. And in that, we see that life is eternal. There's something, some substratum that is eternal, that is undying, that gives life to everything in all of its seasons and cycles. And so this season of spring, to me, it says, welcome new life in you. Let the new life that's blossoming all around you be blossoming in you. Then the prayer says, Earth, teach me to forget myself as melted snow forgets its life. That's a great analogy for those of you in Tahoe watching a foot of snow melt a day. Melted snow forgets its life and its separate existence. As it melts into the ground, it merges with the earth. It's not snow anymore. It's water in the earth. It's moist soil. It's seeds that are moist and breaking open. It's plants. It's rivers. It's lakes. It's oceans. It becomes everything. We forget ourself, our limited small self, and we experience ourself as all that is. And then the last line, the prayer is, Earth, teach me to remember kindness as dry fields weep in the rain. There's many ways to interpret that, but one thought I had was all this rain and all this snow that we've had in California and Oregon. It's taken us from a very long-standing drought into a very regenerated state with our reservoirs full. Lake Oroville's 25 feet from the top. It's amazing. And all our lakes are cleansed. I've never seen the creeks this clean. And even the duck ponds here are clean. The water's so clear. And the rivers are all running again. They're really running. Lakes are filling up where there haven't been lakes in years. So, what a kindness, what a gift from the Great Spirit. And how better for us to express, our gratitude than in our own kindness towards our earth and how we live, our mindfulness, our increasing mindfulness in how we live and how we treat each other. So, this beautiful Ute prayer, it asks us to learn from the earth, to pay attention, as Mary Oliver said, and learn from the earth, learn from its creatures, learn from its elements. Just to be quiet and go out in nature is enough. You don't have to be a master meditator. Just to go out and be receptive is enough. Again, Mary Oliver speaks to this. I love this poem. She says, I don't know exactly what a prayer is. I do know how to pay attention, how to fall down into the grass, how to kneel down in the grass, how to be idle and blessed, how to stroll through the fields, which is what I have been doing all day. Tell me, what else should I have done? Doesn't everything die at last and too soon? Tell me, what is what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? What is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? I'd love to hear your answer to that. Maybe it's as simple as pay attention, be astonished, and share it. So, in closing, may we give thanks. May we give thanks. May we live in gratitude. Turn our minds to gratitude. It's such a high vibration for the infinite blessings from our Mother Earth. And may we really dedicate and rededicate our lives to living in a way that honors, fully honors, and cares for our one and only precious planet. Thank you. Om Shanti. Om Peace.
Thank you, Reverend Kathy. Those reminders about our Mother Earth. I can't wait to get out for a walk this afternoon.